I identify pro-black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight? Welcome to the Kev Show. My name is Jah, and my partner sitting next to me is Kev. And tonight we're going to start off by talking about making Black history. That's our subject. And I wanted to let you all know I don't normally speak for this brother, but I know I can say this at the outset when we talk about Black history. We love Black history. We are Black history. We make Black history. And so don't get us twisted, because whenever you see us, we're talking about some aspect of Black history. So make sure you put a little note in your little book that we love to talk about our people because we are very important. And I say, Kev, you took a turn for the betterment because you want to talk about how we make this thing. So, well, why did you come up with that concept?
Well, I mean, of course, it's Black History Month,
Mhm.
and this is an annual thing, and I know a lot of times they're talking about getting rid of Black History Month off of this uh, government program or from here and there, but that has no effect on us.
Mhm.
But what I wanted to do was not just talk about Black history.
Okay.
We all know the importance of it,
Right.
but my thing is we have to start thinking about making Black history.
Wow.
So that 50 years from now,
Mhm.
people are going to be looking back at this generation and
Mhm.
say, well, this is what happened, like we do with other things that
Right.
happened in the 60s or whatever. I think that we need to make Black history.
Yeah.
We need to be historic.
Yeah, you can't argue with that because we definitely know that it's more than just one part of it. I mean, we talk about it and we should get excited about all the things that our ancestors have done to get us thus far, and we're excited about that. But now we want to talk about the applicable aspect of it. In other words, how do we make Black history? Because we can make it, and I don't think a lot of us realize how practical that is. You know,
Right.
we make it complicated, we make it so hard pressed, but again, we can do and talk about making Black history something as simple as where we shop. That's something
Right.
we can do. We can say, okay, this month, what I'm going to do is, and then hopefully it'll extend to the rest of our lives, but we can say, I'm going to start shopping at all Black businesses, no matter
Right.
what. I'm going to do everything I can. If I have to sacrifice and go out of my way, if I have to pay more, now we're making Black history. We're not just talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important that we apply these truths that we're talking about.
Right. It's something simple like that. You said like shopping or doing
Yeah.
whatever. And history would say that this is something that turned around our economic stance in America. It could be something with this guy that's in office now and them getting rid of DEI.
Mhm.
And then what did we do to respond? And this was the response, and we changed
Mhm.
our trajectory in this country. We made a change, and that's things that becomes historic. It doesn't have to be some mega, astronomical thing that happened.
Right.
It could be like at this point, this is when things changed in the
Mhm.
Black community. They started doing this. And if we think about the Montgomery bus boycott,
Mhm.
we don't know the participants.
Right.
We know, okay, Claudette Colvin, most of us don't know. We know Rosa Parks,
Mhm.
but Claudette Colvin did something. She wasn't trying to do it for all Black people. She
Mhm.
was like, this is not right. This is
Right.
a 15-year-old girl that started a movement,
Right. Right.
that changed the Constitution. Her actions changed the Constitution, but we don't know the participants.
Mhm.
Those people, what empowered her
Right.
was everybody got on, whether Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks said, we got to do something, reenact it and make it happen again using her. And then this caused the movement.
Right.
And then look at the end result.
Wow.
Just one girl,
Mhm.
teenage girl with a thought
Yes.
that said, I'm going to stand up. None of the adults stood up. Nobody, everybody that was
Right.
riding in the back of the bus, they stood there and just rode and was obedient.
Wow.
And one defiant act
Mhm.
changed history
Wow.
for Black people.
Yeah, and that's true because what I'm hearing, what Claudette Colvin did was she's doing what we're talking about tonight. She made Black history, see?
Right.
And so now we're talking about her, but we should be talking about all of us because when we make Black history, that should be something that's going to fuel activism. See,
Right.
we've got, Kev, we got to start doing more. We can't just talk, every February. We can't just talk about it. We got to be about it, as the young
Right.
folks say. We got to do things. Activism is taking something that's latent, something that's just dormant, and then beginning to make a move towards a positive move or goal. Because right now there's a lot of things going on in our communities. We were talking about this before we went on the air. If anyone is in this country and don't see what's going on right now with the political mess, the nonsense, all these yes men and these henchmen, and what they're doing, gutting everything that affects us, affects our mothers, our grandmothers, our children, and we're sitting around and we're not making history. We better make history, or else
Right.
we won't even be here.
Right. And a lot of times people think that well, they look at our history and they say, well, those people had an opportunity to do this because things were a lot worse and things was like this. We complain about things today. If it's
Mhm.
something that you're not comfortable with our community, with our people, whether it's with each other
Mhm.
or from our opposition,
Mhm.
we need to start making a change,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
maybe it'll be historical ramifications
yeah.
to it. They always think, well, Martin Luther King and them, they had a opportunity because this was those times, or these slaves, or these people right out of slavery. White people was different back then. They treated us
Mhm.
different. But then every time when you said, like you said, when they was doing things, they made history. Their
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
wasn't that I'm going to make history.
Right, right.
They were being defiant. It was an act of defiance
Yes, sir.
against oppression. And
Yeah.
that's all you need, an act of defiance, and it may grow into something big.
Yeah. If Black history isn't used to change our current conditions, then what is it all about?
It becomes trivia.
Exactly. Because the thing of it is I had a conversation with about 4 young men, and I was very disheartened. I was very discouraged because we were talking about the police system, the police force, and the brutality and all the things that's going on. And all I said to him, Kev, was, okay, well, since we're complaining about it, why don't you guys look into going into the police force? And then when you become a police officer and you pull over a Black man, African American man or woman, then you will treat them with respect, because we're crying about other people and what they're doing. And they told me that I was whack. They said, man, no, we're not getting involved in that. You sound like you're beginning to be a sellout, John. I'm like, what do you mean sellout? We,
Right.
we're griping about the issues, and now here's an opportunity to make Black history, but now we don't want to do it.
That's a chess move.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you infiltrate it and then you control it. You
Mhm.
control it in your community.
Mhm.
You infiltrate the school system,
Yes,
you
sir.
start controlling it. And you infiltrate a neighborhood, and you start controlling. You infiltrate a town, you start controlling it with your population.
Mhm.
And these are movements. These are things that you could do, making a move that's going to change things.
Mhm.
So this is what we're talking about, doing something, an act of defiance. If
Right,
you're
right.
uncomfortable with something, they want you to remain uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They don't want you. They want discomfort is making a change. They
Mhm.
want you to not feel threatened with making a change.
Mhm.
But something small as that, you say, like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna start joining if I want to change it.
Yeah,
I
come
want to
on
make
now.
a change. So if
Yeah.
and history looks at it, the Black people started joining the police force,
Mhm.
and they took over,
Mhm.
and then they commandeered it, and they
Yep.
start controlling their own
Right, right,
situation.
right. And
That's
now,
historic.
yeah, and now we don't have a lot of the beefs that we have, because now when I get pulled over by African American young man or woman, I know that she's going to respect me, even if I have broken the law. She's not going to try to reach for her gun just because of how I look, or because
Right.
she's fearing for her life, you see, because she knows me. She understands the community. She knows what's going on. And I think we have to look at, as African Americans, we've got to take this session tonight, and we have to be serious about it. You see, we can't be foolhardy when it comes to this whole idea of making Black history.
Right.
Now, we have to look at, first of all, it should be done in a way that actively empowers the Black community. We're lacking power. We sing about Black power, we hold up our fists, and that's always good to at least strive to it. But we have to actually empower our community. I remember when I spoke with you about 7 or 8 months ago, and you told me about some of the things that you do to empower people. When you said that even teaching people how to use a weapon.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, Kel, explain that to me. You broke that thing down to the T. And the bottom line is, now that's going to empower me when someone tries to maybe break in my house or do something to me or to someone that I love. I'll know how to defend myself.
Right.
And that's one of the things that we talked about when we talk about the people back in the 60s. A lot of times Huey P. Newton and all of them, the Black Panther Party for self-defense.
Yeah.
That is what they did. They made history. They didn't just run around and talk about names and dates.
Yeah, and that's where I learned from. You can learn from your history.
Mhm.
Your history, it's not going to be a map or a GPS that's going to say this is the road to get to where you need to go. That's going to be in our history.
Right.
It's not going to be an easy road. That's another. It's not going to be an easy road to
Right.
take. It's going to be a treacherous road. They're
Mhm.
going to make that road treacherous. We got to be willing to take those roads to get where we want to go as a people. Now, what I was talking about, I learned that from studying our history, Black history, and I didn't wait for Black History Month, but that's probably where it started at some time. Young Kevin was learning Black history through Black History Month. Then it just expanded. I'm like, and expounded, and I'm like, I'm learning history, period. Our history, period. But doing something like that was probably inspired by Black Panther Party, learning but then that inspired me to make a move today. This is something that we need today. This is something that they smothered at that time. We got to learn, even if we want to start an organization, we got to look at our history and see how did they capsize our movements back then? How did they infiltrate it? How did they demolish them? And then we learned those are chess moves. Okay, this is what this person did last time.
Right.
This is how I'm gonna move this time. So they can't do that.
Right. And when we make Black history, we're going to solve our present day problems. See, we're not going to be waiting all the time in the future for something to happen or transpire, or waiting for someone to come and lift us out of the muck and mire of life. We can actually solve those problems today if we make Black history, meaning if we do something about our present situation, because we have so many things that's going on. We look at the abuse that's going on. This for some of the men who say, you know what, you're not going to put your hands on these sisters. You don't have to go to these places that are anonymous. If you do it again, we're going to put a knot upside your head and let you see how it feels. We're going to do things about our children. We're going to take advantage of a curriculum, and we're going to change the curriculum to teach our people how great we are and some of the trials and tribulations we have overcome. So therefore, we have to look at all these aspects of Black history. But when it's all said and done, if we're not willing to make Black history, then all we're doing is, like you said, we're just chopping at the bits. We're just flapping our gums, and we're waiting each year to talk about something that other people may not have discovered. But at the end of the day, what are we doing? What are we doing in our communities?
That's the main thing I ask. When people complain about things, I listen to the complaint, and I be like, yeah, you're right. And I don't just want to just sit and gripe. I don't want to have a bitching session. I'm like, so when we finish talking about everything that we uncomfortable with, so my next question gonna be, so what are you gonna do? What are you doing? If it may not be something that's concerning me, you may be politics, whatever it is, and I may not be in it like that, but I'm saying, okay, yeah, that's great. So what are you doing? What are you doing to make a change to it? And how can you inspire other people to do what you want to do? You can't inspire everybody, but maybe what are you doing to make a change? That's what I'm asking. Then somebody, I don't know, it ain't nothing to do. Then it's like all you doing is complaining. Then that should be the next question. I don't like this, so what can I do about it?
Right. I have something to say, but I'm going to give this number out first, and then I'm going to say what I have to say. Why don't you give us a call at 361-405-6111? And for those who say, Jahi, you talk fast a lot of times, I'm going to slow it down. 361-405-6111. And here's something else that I said earlier that I want to revisit. And it has to do with how we should support one another, Kevin. That's making Black history right there. We can't just talk about ideally what we want to happen. We're going to have to support one another, because a lot of us, we talk this good game about Black history and all that, but we're not interested in supporting one another. And so I think it's important that if we look at our own hearts and say, the only way that we can make Black history is we can support someone that looks like us, that's going to take the funds and do something about our communities, or someone that you want to see that looks like you become more successful financially, than always reaching out and asking other people for that. And I think that's something that we definitely need to deal with.
And the question, why would that be historical? What us supporting each other, doing something simple, because it's not something that's not happening.
Right.
And maybe that could change the trajectory of our position in this country. If somebody inspired us to say, let's support us. Maybe it's the opposition. Maybe it's this clown that's in office that's making us say, you know what, we have to close ranks and do something, because we'll do it over an incident, a police brutality case or something like that, or some kind of injustice. And then we want to get together and we bond together to gripe or to protest to
Yeah.
make a little noise,
Yeah.
but then we're not doing anything. Where's the action from it?
Mm.
Anything, Trayvon case, Tamir Rice, any
Right.
of that
Right.
could have brought George Floyd. You know, the history of that, that's going in history. That's going in the annals of history that we protested across America.
Mm.
But see, that should have built more. It should have been more than that.
Wow. Wow.
Because that person being murdered
Mhm.
by the police officer, that inspired riots and that,
Right. Right.
and everything, and it inspired some change. Claudette Colvin refusing to give up her seat,
Mm.
that inspired ramifications that she couldn't even imagine. She's
Right.
still alive, but she probably couldn't even imagine. She wasn't trying to be a black activist or, you know, lead a leader or anything like that. She just said, this isn't right, and I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
then I'm going to stick whatever comes with it. I'm sticking to my I'm standing on it,
Right. Right.
sticking to my guns.
Yeah.
And then that started a movement. That started a civil rights movement, and just dominoes fell. So if anything, we had a lot of opportunities
Yeah. Yeah.
to bond together, support each other, stop doing the things that we were doing that was detrimental to our cause.
Mhm.
And we're dropping the ball on a lot of those things.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's what my question to be to anybody. If you're uncomfortable,
Mhm.
what are you going to do?
Wow, that's very good. You know, I know I saw a sister the other day, and I said, you know, every time I see you, you wearing a daishiki, and she goes, well, you know me, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? She said, well, this is Black History Month. You know, I'm going to represent.
Right.
Well, I want to press her a little bit more because we can't turn this into what is a traditional tradition. No, it can't be something that we look forward to every year just to wear clothes that says different names of someone who did something important for us. You know, we have to make this a lifestyle, Kev. And I think sometimes when we look at us, we turn things that are sacred and we make them profane in that we violate, we bastardize the importance of how to make Black history. So we get caught up in wearing clothes or looking at someone trying to find a name that we haven't heard before. I've heard people say this, which I'm gonna get ready to straighten them out when I hear it again. Well, all they talk about is Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, and Sojourner Truth, and Frederick Douglass. Well, you can still take lessons from them. You can't shut down just because that's all you know, you see, because that's where you start. And then you go ahead and you expand that. You know, you don't just critique people who say, well, all they talk about is black history when it comes to Rosa Parks and so forth. But it's more than that. And even if that was the stop, if that was the end of all things, we still should not just sit around and look at it as just a prideful event. We have to make it so that it's going to affect the lives of these little children and these middle-aged people and our senior citizens.
Yeah. Now, Black history is very important. Like Josh said, he gave like a disclaimer in the beginning. You know, we love Black
Yes,
history.
we do.
You know, and the thing that you said about the pride, that when you start talking, I was thinking we're trying to make it into like a Irish pride or pride. I'm gonna say a pride parade. You know, that's fine. You could get pride from it, but learn from it. And what are you gonna do with it? You know, it's not just trivia. It's not trivia question. Or I could one up you because I know a name that you don't know. Do you know about this person? This person did that. That should be okay. Yeah, that's good. Feed me. But I'm saying we got to see some fruit. From that. And this is what we're talking about: making history.
Yeah.
It's time for us to stop sitting up there talking about the past.
Right.
And only talking about the past and not leading to our future.
Wow.
What are we going to do? Me learning about Frederick Douglass or learning about Malcolm X, you know, if it's not making a change in my efforts of doing something positive for the future, then it's just trivia.
And Kev, sometimes we miss the importance of all these people. They all did something. They did something to help us. They didn't just come in name only, you see. They did certain things like Percy Julian, all these people that we talk about a lot. When we study what they did, the obstacles that they had to overcome. See, so what we have to do is we have to look at how we need to use this Black history. Now, I'm going to say this, and I definitely want you to get in on this because we often talk about this, but we should be using or we should be making Black history to reprogram the mind. Because the mind is so infiltrated with nonsense, with garbage, with just things that are so asinine in many cases. So we should be taking this opportunity and try to reprogram us because, you know, we got a lot of stuff going on as people, and oftentimes we don't have the right things. So we can take these Black history figures and see, how did Carter G. Woodson, what did he go through? Why did he want us to have a Black History Week? Why did it turn into Black History Month? What is the significance of Black History Month? What is it going to do for your life? What should it do for my life? How should it make us feel? What should it make us do? And I think we need to reprogram that mind, because this mind of ours as a collective group, this mind is under assault every day, every hour. This mind is under constant assault. And we have to begin to look at, how can we take all this that we're going through and turn it into a Black history moment where we can use it to help solve our problems? Because if we don't solve our problems, no one else will.
Yeah. It's a lot of repair work that needs to be done. When you just take us off of face value as a people, there's a lot of damage that has been done to us psychologically. Post-traumatic stress that we're going through, and we don't even realize that we're not being treated for the stuff that what we're witnessing and why we're witnessing it. And the historic part that we can make is a change. That's all it is, making a change. All these people that you name, they were out to change things they were. It was acts of defiance, because they're going against an oppressive system. Systemic racism was there, and it's still here. And we act like, oh, well, we don't have the leaders. We don't have the leaders. You be that leader. Claudette didn't have a leader. It was she did something, an act of defiance, because she was fed up.
Yes,
she was
really
tired.
was.
She saw something wrong. And all of these leaders that you named, they were doing acts. Their leadership was an act of defiance. Trying to wake us up is an act of defiance, and not just talking. Like, we could do this show, and if this is the only thing that we did, it'll be the same thing. Talking is easy. Posting on social media, or this post, or this meme, or this whatever, that's the easiest thing you could do.
Right.
Casting a vote, that's the easiest thing you could do. But you have to have actually some heart, some getting your hands dirty, and be willing to change. What are we going to change? What is it that you want to change? Ask yourself. And if you're not going to do it yourself, then be a participant. Like there was in the Montgomery bus boycott. It was participants that we don't know. It was a whole town of people that took the hard road. They said, you know what, it's easy for me to ride the bus, but I'm not going to do it. It's an act of defiance. And they bonded together. Like you were just saying, supporting each other. A lot of us have things that we say we're going to do. I want to boycott this. I want to not buy this. But if we do it, if you say, well, this company got rid of DEI, then you know what? If we say, okay, I'm with you on that. This person is talking about doing something else. I may not be with you on that, but I'm with you on this. So the more people that you get, that's going to make it effective, whatever movement that you're trying to do.
Wow, that's so true. We also should do Black history so that we can change some of the present conditions that we complain about all the time. And one case in point that I want to be practical with, it has to do with the educational system. You know just as well as I know, we have complained ever since segregation. In 1954, the Board against Brown versus the Board of Education. Okay, that's when we started going to these different schools and getting indoctrinated in Eurocentric thought, Eurocentric ideology. And so we, to this day, we say on many instances when our children come home, they're not being taught. They're not being taught what they should be taught. They're not learning what they should learn. They don't know how to survive. They don't know how to think for themselves. But yet we don't take the Black history moment, as we're talking now, and turn it into something where these kids don't have to worry about being brainwashed in a system that doesn't give a damn about them. It never has and it never will. And for some reason, we think that by sitting back and not doing anything, which this is a golden opportunity, us adults should get together, and instead of just protesting against the school, we should make our own curriculum. Are we not wise enough? Are we not intelligent enough to make our own curriculum? Have we not been there and done that? Do we not know that if we continue to let these children go down this anarchy and this slippery slope, this road that they're on, that they're going to end up like most of us, destitute, don't know how to think, don't know how to reason, don't know how to talk to people, don't know how to finance or use our finances wisely, don't know how to sacrifice. So we should begin to teach these little children that as they grow up, Black history is about making a change, like these people that we all talk about. Maggie Lena Walker. You know, here's a lady that said, hey, I'm going to start a bank, a Black bank, the first Black woman to start a bank. Mary McLeod Bethune. She says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a university, a college for just Black girls, African-American women. So they didn't just talk about the problem. They saw the issue and they did something. But unfortunately, brother, many of us, we see the problem and we are going to die talking about the problem. So
Right.
we're encouraging everybody to let's make this happen instead of just complaining about it.
Right. And that's something that I'm going to ask you about, because you started a school,
Hmm.
and this is like what I'm saying. It's easy to talk. We're not just here to talk. We're
Hmm.
not just two guys that want to just talk about what we're not doing and what we need to do, because we're out doing things.
Hmm.
We're trying to inspire. We're trying to make improvements. Now, you started the school.
Yeah.
What inspired that?
What inspired me is I saw that if I didn't take the lead and try to put something together for our beautiful children, that our children would end up in a life of servitude, because that's what the curriculum is now in the United States of America. It always teaches the black man, the African American student, to be in servitude. They always want you to work for somebody else. They always want you to look to someone else. They always want you to look to a European to get something. Whereas I said this would be something very practical. It'll be fundamental. It'll be foundational to take students and take the curriculum that I put together to teach them about themselves first, teach them about their culture, teach them about their language, teach them about their intuition, teach them about how to survive in a world, teach them about racism, teach them about identity. I can go on and on and on, but I saw the need to answer your question. I saw a need that we were lacking. And instead of me plugging into something that I knew they weren't going to get, I said, I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to do something that's going to affect the minds of people, that when they get old, they'll look back and say, there was an old man that taught me. He's gone now, but this is the legacy that he left, because
Right.
he got me ready for this real racist, sick world.
Right. And one of your students, I'm going to bring it, branch it off. One of your students could go on to be somebody great.
Mhm.
Right. And then they're going to say, this is where I started at,
Yeah.
and this is, so that was historic for them. The history that you can make by doing something like that, you may not even see it come to fruition,
Mhm.
but somebody else could say, this is where I learned
Yeah.
to be who
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I remember Sister Soldier being on Phil Donahue, and she was talking to Cornell West, and she was pointing like, y'all didn't teach me. Y'all
Mm.
Negroes didn't, y'all sitting up here and they like, sister, calm. Just like, no, because somebody, and she gave the name of the guy.
Yeah.
He taught me who I was,
Right,
and
right,
why I
right,
was here,
right.
and everything about it. And those things can have ramifications that can be historic. St. Philip's College over here on East Side San Antonio. It
Mhm.
started out as a school for young girls, like a sewing for black girls,
Mhm.
and now it's a college.
Yeah.
Liberation Academy can
Mhm.
be something
Yeah.
massive in the
Yeah.
future, and they could say years from now, it started off with this guy Jahi
Yeah.
Osaze,
Yeah.
and he had these many kids at first, and then
And
they,
it's
they
going.
get that, and then one of them may be a teacher, and they
Exactly.
may develop the school, and it may grow to something else. But you're not here to make you wouldn't planning to make
Right,
history.
right.
You're trying to make a change
Exactly.
that can be historical. That's
Man.
what I was getting at.
Man, I have 6 students, and I'm telling you now, man, these young ladies are just they're doing Black history. They're not waiting to get old to be able to try to solve problems. They're doing it now. So
Right.
oftentimes we tell our students to wait till they get older and you're going to be able to solve problems. Well, those problems are here now. I have 2 that are looking at air traffic control. I have one that wants to be an astrophysicist, and I have one that wants to be a world history teacher. I have one she's a cartoonist. I have another one that wants to be a doctor. So, but they all have the idea that they want to work for themselves eventually. They want to
Right.
work for themselves. And that's what we need to instill in our children by making Black history. And so you couldn't have said it better. And I've known you a while. And that was the most profound thing that you have ever said. You probably would never say anything that's as profound as that. But when you said, let's talk about making Black history, you don't know what you said. And the audience that's out here today, please call us and tell us how you plan on making Black history, not where
Okay.
you went to as far as functions that happen all month. What are you doing personally that's going to help us?
All right. And I'm gonna thank some of y'all that showed up on a social media page. We're also on YouTube live on our channel. Maria Saze, she said, Hotel Brothers, peace, sister. I appreciate you showing up. Barbara Roy, I appreciate. She said, greetings, King. Sakina, she said, Assalamu alaikum, walaikum assalam, sister. Rahmatu Allah barakatuh. I appreciate you showing up. And Coretta Cole, she's Branch, I appreciate. She said hello. And Josiah said, Saza, he said, throughout history, why does it seem like us African Americans have been the main target of abuse, neglect, and mistreatment? And we'll get back and answer that question for you. Sakina said we should use lessons learned from our history to apply it to improve and apply our present day situations. And Do you want to tackle the question?
Yeah,
And he
what was
said,
the question again?
throughout history, why does it seem like us African Americans have been the main target of abuse, of neglect, and mistreatment?
Yeah, because of racism.
Right.
We have to go back to the inception. Right now, we can kind of take it in all these different branches, but it goes back to the race of European countries like Poland, like Russia, like Spain, like Portugal, like Germany, like England, like Belgium. These countries, European, race to see who can own most wealth because in the 1400s, there was something that was called the Black Death, the bubonic plague. It killed one third of all the Europeans. So they came out of that plague destitute. They came out in squalor. So they had to revamp themselves to get the wealth back. So this is when they went out. We also went out as a people, but we just didn't go out and colonize people. But they went out because they had to colonize people and they raced. And now once they got the wealth, they're using this wealth to do us all in. But it goes back to that one word, which is racism. And we cannot sugarcoat it any other way because that's why black people are continuously, even today, still being treated the way that we're being treated today.
All right. And I'm going to answer. I want to give my answer too, because we allowed them to. We gave them the opportunity. One thing that happens when someone has an opportunity and they have ill will
Hmm.
towards you, if you give them an opportunity to do it, they will do it.
Hmm.
And if you continue to give them the opportunity to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
They created a system. It's normal. If anybody wants to oppress you, they're not going to elevate you.
Mm.
They're going to kick you while you're down. They're going to want you to be down. They're going to weaken you. They're going to weaken your mind. They're going to make you scared to oppose them.
Mm.
And this is what they have been doing. This is what they set out to do. You are opportunity for them to make money. That's what it was. We were opportunity for them to make money through slavery. They needed someone. They needed physical labor when they got this new world that they called it a new world, and they needed someone to work the land, to do the things to help America become what she is. Now, I'm going to read another comment. Jacqueline said, "You must have missed out on the Holocaust." And if you can expound on that, Jacqueline, because I don't want to expound on something and you say that's not what you really meant.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, she said also the Jews in Egypt, women in the Middle East. Now, all of those things. If now, since you brought it now, do you want to get on that, or you want me to?
Well, I think, like you said, if she can give us the context, because there's been we've always been, as far as the Holocaust, as far as us, we talk about the so-called Jews, but we've been exterminated ever since we've come over here, and we're continuously being exterminated. People are being abused every day, every second. So, but when you talk about the Holocaust, I hope they're talking about our Holocaust, because our Holocaust is much more important because it affects us and it continues to affect us.
Okay. And what she was answering the question to, the one that Josiah gave, that we was answering through our history, why does it seem that African Americans have been the main target of abuse, neglect, and mistreatment? Now I'm gonna bring up the Holocaust thing. Because a lot of times when people say, well, you've been through this or we've been through, I could say the Native Americans, right? But the difference is about with the Jews and the Holocaust, because we always learn in school about the Jews and the Holocaust. That's something that happened 5,000 miles from here. And the difference is we're not learning what happened right here to us, but we learn. If my kids go to school, they know about Anne Frank. But they don't know about the girls that was bombed and everything that was happening to us. So we could talk about that, but we already know about that.
Right.
And the thing about the Jews or whatever, we want to talk about the Holocaust. They wasn't stripped of who they were.
Right.
They know who they were. They knew where they came from. They would go back and say, this is Israel. I know I came from Israel. My bloodline. That's what they're going to say. They're going to think they came from Israel. We didn't know where we came from. No. We just have a continent, which is just saying I came from, not even like saying I came from Europe. And you don't know if you English, French, German or whatever. They didn't take their language away. They didn't take their religion away. So that's the difference. Yeah. Okay. At this time, how long did the Holocaust last? You know what?
You talking about the 1939?
38, 39 to 44, whatever.
Yeah.
How many years is that?
Right.
How long did the Black Holocaust last? 400
and counting.
400 some odd years. Where you strip the people of who they were, their language, their religion.
Yeah.
Their
everything.
Culture,
yes, sir,
and then you reprogram them to be less than nothing and think less than nothing of themselves. So when you compare, when you bring them people up, it's going to seem to us like okay, yeah, we know what happened with the Jews. Only
Mm-hmm.
thing that somebody can compare to us, if we want to compare, it's not definitely not the Jewish thing,
Right, right,
because you look at where the Jews at now. They could say, well, people treated us like this, but they treated you better than they treated us.
right,
And
right.
today, if we say anything that the Jews don't like, we get
Huh.
crucified
Come on,
for it.
man. Come
If
on,
we
man.
say, well, we believe that the Jews was black the original, we get crucified for that, by not by white America,
Right, right.
by the Jews in America.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, so it's not the same.
It's not.
Now,
It's
the only
not.
thing you could say comparable, you could say by the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm,
And you
mm-hmm.
could talk about the women in the Middle East, how they was oppressed, but they were not stripped of who they
Man,
were.
you're saying so much, Kev. We were taken from a continent. We were brought 3 months in the Atlantic Ocean, the Atlantic so-called Middle Passage, the slave trade. One of the things that we were stripped of that we want to share with them as far as doing Black history, this is why we talk about it like this, is we were stripped of our identity. And that's crucial. We don't even know who we are. We still are struggling today. Many of us hate ourselves because our identity has been struck. It has been sacked. It has been bombarded. And therefore, because we don't know who we are, we think we're someone else, and we don't know who we are because we haven't studied. We haven't looked at our ancestors to show that even though all these things happened to us, they still had character. They still had identity. They still had a sense of belonging. They still had a sense of economics. They still had a sense of unity. They still had a sense of self-determination. They still had a sense of purpose. When you strip that from a people, man, you basically have people that are zombies. You have people that are possessed. You know, we often talk about demonic possession. Well, we're possessed because America has taken our name. They have taken our language. They have taken our food. They have taken our clothes. They have taken everything from us. And so that's why that's important when we talk about the Holocaust, to be sure that we make Black history because it has been stripped from us. So we must make it. Don't expect no one else to make our history.
Right.
We have to make our history.
And if I go into any of those groups that she brought up, okay, yeah, you talking about um, murdering people or oppressing the people, the women in the Middle East. Did they keep their language?
Yes, they
Did
did.
they lose their culture?
Hmm.
No, I mean they may have been oppressed, just like women everywhere may have been oppressed or something. It's not the same.
No,
So
no.
when you're bringing up things like you say the Jewish Holocaust, where are they now? And the Jews in Egypt,
Right,
did they
right.
lose their religion? Did they know who they were?
Mm,
If Moses, if
mm,
he was leading them out of Israel,
mm.
or I mean out of Egypt, they knew he knew who to get.
Yeah,
It ain't like they am I Israel and
yeah.
I'm a Jew,
Mm.
or is he talking about it? No, many of us don't even know who we are.
Wow,
You
wow.
know, you could look at us and say we don't even know that we don't even know we need to be led away. We don't even know how to that we need to be finding leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here 500 years back.
Wow, yeah.
You know, how long was that situation? I'm not talking about slavery. When you
Right,
bring it up
right.
bondage, we're not talking about bondage.
Mhm.
This is much more than bondage.
Yeah.
So where are the pictures of the Jews that was in Egypt being lynched?
Mm.
You know, where those pictures are, where they were being operated on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talk to me about that. Now
Yeah.
you could say the Jews in Israel, but that only lasted so long.
Right, right.
You know, and everybody learns about that. Nobody learns about our predicament. So if you talk about the Holocaust,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say, well, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're talking about the Native Americans, I'm gonna sit there and learn about the Native Americans.
yeah,
Say, man, that
yeah.
was terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, but what about these people? What about this and this? See,
Yeah.
that's the thing that we face in this country.
Yeah.
When we talk about things that happen to us, people bring up, well, what about this? They're
Yeah.
indentured servants.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's not the same. I
It-
don't
it's
want. It's
never-
not about slavery.
Yeah.
I don't care about somebody being enslaved someplace
Right,
else,
right.
because it wasn't the slave.
wasn't
It
the
wasn't
same.
torture.
It
And
wasn't.
when I'm gonna say this, when white people sit there on social media and they'll say, well, blacks enslaved blacks, or blacks did this. Yeah. And I say, and you know what they did? They sold sold Africans in this bondage and things like that. But I'm not talking about the act of slavery.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the buyer and the atrocities that
Yeah.
I'm talking about selling it to a monster
Mhm.
versus selling it to a regular buyer.
Wow, that's pretty heavy, man. As we continue the theme of doing Black history, we have to make sure that we make Black history functional and not just inspirational. And see, that's what we're leaning to. And I don't want us to go there because it should be inspirational, but it should be functional. In other words, Black history, when we do Black history, it should have us going back to our communities and doing things that's going to better our communities, like opening up a store. Okay. Like opening up a bank, or if we don't have the finances, supporting someone that has a store that's black, supporting someone that has a bank, supporting someone that has a hospital, supporting someone that's going to do something positive. That's how we make black history, and we have to make it functional. We have to make it work, in other words.
And that's why I asked earlier, what makes that historical? Because we have been stripped of the mentality to love each other to do that. What other people are stripped of the function of loving themselves or supporting themselves?
Right.
Go to the Jewish neighborhood and see if they support themselves. That hasn't been stripped from them.
Right.
So we have a lot more repair to be doing, and that's what we're talking about, repairing. And we have to make a historical moves to repair the damage that we have been put through and that we are still in. Look at the residue of the damage that we're in.
Yeah.
We have to correct that. That's why I said we have to repair. We have to start off repairing ourselves.
If we don't, we're going to find ourselves fighting for just survival, because that's what it's about.
That's what we do anyway.
It's survival. We have been through so much and continue to go through so much. So please don't misunderstand, Kevin. Now, we continuously know what we're going through. But when we make black history, when we do black history, that's going to stop the genocide. That's the corruption that's all being put on us as a people, because those of us who realize, those of us who understand, those of us who want to see our people aspire, we're going to do something no matter what people say, no matter how people think about us, no matter how they try to thwart the plans that we have. So that's why we have to make sure that we do black history instead of just talking about black history.
And Jacqueline said, this is not to minimize the plight of U.S. African Americans. I appreciate the comments. Sakina said, we are still mistreated, neglected, abused today. Our struggle is continuous. We have to continue. We have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
If we plan to make things change, because they're going to make it very uncomfortable for us to make a change in our conditions. So we have to realize it's going to take that type of discipline. We have to be comfortable. The problem is with many of us that try, they say, well, we don't have the leaders. They don't whatever. No, you just don't want to follow the leaders that's out there, because they're telling you to do something that's when Kaepernick is taking a knee, or when somebody is saying turn this off or turn that off. That's something you can do.
Do it.
Follow that. But you just choosing not to do it, because it's like they picking like they do with the church. They pick, okay, the Baptists, they do this, the Methodists, they do, you know what, I like the Kajik, because that fits me, like it's an outfit, you know, and that's what they do. We pick and choose what it is we want to do, like it's like what makes us comfortable.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to have to go through.
You're going to.
Look at our leaders. They went through uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. You have to be able to challenge the system. You really do. You can't be a patsy. You can't be a push button. You can't be a wuss. You have to be willing to allow people to dislike you. I notice you and I, we often joke and play with each other. You know, you told me when we first started doing the broadcast, Jai, you're going to probably be seen as the bad cop, and I'm going to be probably seen as the good cop. Well, what we're trying to say is, as long as the truth is being told, I don't care what one thinks of me, because I'm doing this because of the love for the people. And if you saw a broadcast that this brother did last week, if that's not the bad cop in a sense, because he was telling the truth, then that's what we have to do. We have to allow people to be upset with us because we're standing up for our people. All these people that we're talking about that did black history, do you think everybody patted them on the back? Do you think everybody was in their corner? Do you think everybody gave them what they wanted? Do you think these people went out on a limb and everybody was just kind of making sure that when they failed, they would catch them? No, it was just the opposite. So we have to be uncomfortable, because we're going to challenge. And if you do black history, you're going to have to challenge the system and not be afraid of the consequences.
And that's a beast. And many of our leaders died by the bullet. You know, they died in a pool of blood. You know, and justice was not served. The road of justice, equality, and freedom is not an easy road to take, and it won't be for us. And so we have to know that you're going to be jeopardizing something.
Oh yeah.
And the brothers on the wall behind, right here, you know, at the Olympics, they jeopardized their future. They took a stance. That was a stance of defiance, of letting people know this is what we're going through. I'm running for this country, but when I go home, I'm not going to be a hero. You know, even the brothers that went into war, names that wasn't leaders that went and fought for this country on every war that this country was engaged in. We came back and was treated as less. When we was fighting in World War II and we was fighting against the Nazis, the Germans, when we captured them,
and they was on the train, we had to get up and give them our seat. They were trying to kill the white American soldiers. They was trying to kill us. We captured them. They prisoners of war. But yet, as a black soldier that's fighting alongside of you, that's helping you capture them or kill them, when we capture them, I got to get up and give him my seat, because they don't want to see a white person standing up, even if he's our enemy that's trying to kill me. They don't want to see us standing sitting down and that person standing up. This is what we've been going through in this country, that we continue to go through. And any damn leader that you're talking about, y'all will follow y'all damn leaders that's talking about voting, casting a ballot, getting together for this, but you won't follow the leaders that's talking about doing some hard work. Do both then. I don't care. I'm not saying don't vote, don't do this, but do both.
And we have to also, in doing Black history, again, that's what we're talking about, making Black history. In making Black history, we need to study the tactics of those of our ancestors who went before us. Study Marcus Garvey. Study his mindset. What made him be race first? What made him be proud of who he was? Study the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. Study why he was an illiterate man, so they said, and he didn't get past the 3rd or 4th grade, but yet he was a mastermind when it came to psychology, when it came to philosophy. Study the mindset of these sisters and brothers who went before. Study the mindset of Shirley Chisholm. And we can go on and on and on and on, but I'm trying to make a point, and that's basically study the tactics of these people that became so great in our mind today, but they paid a price, but they had to do something to become great. The tactics that they use are still out there today. The tactics are still there, but we don't like to celebrate those tactics.
And to expound on that, like you give a list of leaders and things like that, what we tend to do is we find something that we disagree with about them, and then it's like we throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't like this, or Malcolm said this, or Martin was this, and they portrayed him as that or whatever, instead of learning from what they could give you. And I hear a lot of these young people say, I'm not Black. Why would they call us Black? Blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, you don't understand Marcus Garvey. If you have to ask that question, you haven't studied Marcus Garvey, or why the red, black, and green flag is that flag. Why we consider ourselves Black. Now, you may not agree with why we do that, but if you have to ask a question, because it's bigger than any boundaries of land. This is tying all of us, the diasporas and everything, together. This makes us international. And the power should be international. But it's not. So we have to make his dream come into fruition. We always talk about King's dream, but all of them had a dream. They had a vision that they wanted to change things and how they wanted things to be. And we have to understand that.
Wow, this is so excellent, man, because we also have to do Black history so we can control the narrative of our people. Aren't you tired of always whining about what someone else has said about us, and always combating what they said, but not taking what we know about ourselves that we have researched and begin to disseminate that so that we can begin to see ourselves as who we really are? We have to control the narrative, because the narrative that has been given is whack. It's outdated. It's not true. It's fake. It's false. It's phony. Well, then we need to control the narrative. Fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, all of us, we should be controlling our narrative, not just doing February every day, but that's going to take a sacrifice. You're going to have to put that cell phone down. I'm going to have to stop watching so much sports. I'm going to have to stop feeding my face with everything I can see. I'm going to have to always trying to induce myself. I'm going to have to make sacrifices. And that means I'm going to have to research. I'm going to have to study. I'm going to have to be diligent. I'm going to have to be able to say, you know what, based upon what my people have done for me, and because I want to do Black history, I want to know what these people that Brother Kevin and Brother Jah he's talking about. I want to know about other people that they haven't mentioned. All the greatness of our people and what they've done. And you mean to tell me we can't get past one or two of them because we don't want to, and we don't see how this is a sacrifice to do Black history? It's not easy. It's difficult, but we can do it. We just have to do it, though.
Yeah. And some things that we have to do, some of the biggest fights have to be with each other, because we're dealing with people with a soiled mind, with a that's been deprogrammed, and they've been built up to be something that opposes our positive movements. And if you have a problem, sometimes the fights have to be within the house first. So if you have a problem with anyone that's promoting negativity, you can say, well, you know what, this is something I need to change. I don't like the way that the rap community is doing this, or I don't like the ones that's promoting this in the rap community, the sexism or the gangster rap or murder rap or whatever. And you say anybody that has these type of lyrics,
you don't attack the person.
Mm.
You attack the people that's putting them out.
Right.
You know
right.
what, Sony? Why do you have this person, Lil So and So or whomever,
Yeah.
that's putting out all these negative lyrics?
Mm.
You know, why are you feeding our people poison?
Wow.
You don't, you don't go to the poison people. That's at the you go to higher up, just like the government do when they go after the drug. They don't care about the street.
No.
The government's going to go after
Top dog.
the top dogs. They're trying to get the top people.
Yeah.
They may arrest them to find out where they get. But I'm saying we have to, whatever your movement is, whatever you disapprove that's happening to us, even if it's by us, then attack that.
Yeah.
Figure out a measure of getting rid of it.
I'm going to ask you a question, Kev, and you always ask me questions, but I'm just going to be succinct and right to the point. What happens if we don't do Black history? What happens to us?
Well, we're going to continue on the path. I know Lao Tzu had a quote in the Tai Chi Ching, and he said, if you continue in the direction you're going, you're going to end up at your destination. And we look at our destination, we're going to be destined to be trampled upon, like Josiah was asked, oppressed, mistreated. We're giving them the opportunity to continue doing the things that they're doing to us and holding us where we've been held.
That's
so
good.
This is where this is where you want to be.
Yeah.
If you're happy, if you're comfortable, then you're gonna not do the things that we're talking about. If you're not comfortable, then you're gonna have to do the things that you're going to have to be historic. You're going to have to make a change. We're going to have to make a change as a people. An individual could spark that change. That's what we're talking about. Be the individual that's sparking that change. People may see me go follow somebody else, and I'm telling you that, hey, man, this is the way, or this person is doing this. And that may make them say, well, let me look into that. We're going to follow Jahi. Let's do that. Then maybe more people will do it.
Right, right. The children, Kev, I want to talk about that briefly too. I'm talking about the little children, like 3, 4, 5, and on up to maybe 11. We should be doing Black history so they can see that and that become a normal part of their lives. Because as they get older, they're not going to wait around for somebody to spoon feed them. They're going to say, because I've gotten a heavy dosage of my history, a truthful dosage of my history. Now, as I get older, I'm going to repeat that. And I'm not going to turn this tradition into what most of us always make traditions. It starts off honest. It starts off sacred. And then it ends up with drinking. It ends in eating. It ends in nonsense. It ends up in foolishness and all of that. So our children need to see us at a young age as we're disseminating truth to them. So then when they get up, when they get older, they're going to say, this is a normal part of life.
Right.
So this is nothing new. But unfortunately, we repeat the same thing. We wait till February, and we should go and do this beyond February, but we should at least not just go to functions, because a lot of people, and I'll give it back to you, but a lot of us, we wait till February and we go to different functions. Okay, all February, we go to this function. This is Black history. We go to this function next week. We go to that function. And at the end of the month, we've run all over the city, but we don't know anything. We haven't done any Black history, and it's okay to go and visit and see what people are putting out so we can learn. But we got to come back to our own hearts and say, hey, I'm tired of running all over the city so everybody can see me going to different functions. Did you see Jah at that function? Oh, I saw him last week. I'm going to see him next week. Okay, but what is he teaching? What is he learning about from going from all those places? And that's how it becomes a tradition, and it loses its fever, and therefore fervor, I should say. And therefore we're not able to do Black history as opposed to just talk about Black history.
Right. People start off as students. Everyone starts off as a student. Then some people become teachers. And if you learn correctly, if you're teaching a young person correctly, and they're going to start off and say, okay, Black History Month. What they're going to do one day, hopefully, is become a teacher. They're going to talk about Black history more than just in February. They're going to know, and you're going to bring up, do you know about this? Yeah, I know about that person. Let me teach you, because you're trying to tell them, then you're going to find out this person is somebody that could teach me, that maybe learn from Black history. Like you said, I have no problem with people going to this function, that function, that function. I want to see what you do for the rest of the year, because that's going to tell me what you actually learned from doing all this stuff, having all this pride. If you got all this pride, then it should hurt you to see our conditions in this country and want to do something to improve it.
Yeah.
If you see where we've been, it should hurt you to see where we're at. If you want to go back to the motherland and you feel Afrocentric and we used to do this and we the ones that invented this and that, then it should hurt you to see our conditions and our predicaments today. And it should make you want to change things the way they are. So what change are you going to make?
Yeah. But doing Black history, as I said earlier, and I want to revisit that now, it's about our survival. See, this is nothing to play with. We shuck and jive, for in so many instances, but this is a serious subject. This is a beautiful subject. This is a sacred subject. This is a holy subject. This is a subject that all of us should be joining hands in and saying, you know what? I have to do my part to make this happen. Because if we all don't take our little part and do Black history, our survival is at stake. And these people have never played with us. And at this moment, in this world, in this time and day, it is so bad. People don't realize how tough it is. Well, you see grandmothers struggling. You see grandfathers struggling. You see a lot of brothers who are being incarcerated. You see sisters who don't know which way to go. You see a lot of young men strung out on dope. You see a lot of young people committing suicide. If we do Black history, we won't stop it all, Kev, but we can help some of those people in a situation where they may not have known what someone did. They may not have known what a person of African American descent who came over here, like George Crumb, who was the one who had to deal with the potato chip because they teased him. He kept making French fries and at a restaurant, and every time he brought it out, the white man and white woman said, "It's too thick, it's too thick, it's too thick, it's too thick." And so he kept cutting it until he cut it so thin it became what we know today as the potato chip. So you see, they mocked him, they ridiculed him, but he took what they said about him and his cooking and his ability to prepare food, and so he did that to show, you know what, you can tease me and play with me, but now look where it is now, because he did that to show that we are so intelligent, man. We've got to continue to take everything that's in us to show people that, hey, we are the ones who are going to secure our future. No one else is going to do it. Nobody's going to come in the sky and nobody's going to rescue us. Nobody's coming in a spaceship. We have to do it ourselves. And that's why the plea tonight to all of you who are watching this broadcast is, if everyone does their little part, just do your part and I do my part, it's going to be much better than just us sitting around waiting for the NAACP, waiting for the Urban League, waiting for all these places that haven't done anything in almost 100 years to do something for us.
Now you brought up the organizations, and I had that in my mind. Look at our organizations, the genres, organizations, whatnot. I'm gonna say you brought up the NAACP, or I'm gonna say the church, and I'm not just getting on the church for the religious faction. I'm talking about the church as an organization. Whatever you're a part of, if it's not pushing you to do something other than sit back and watch the decay and feel good about whatever theme of the moment is, and if you're not leaving out of that church or whatever, and it's not pushing you to go out in your community to change things in this system, systemic racism, if it's not gearing you to do that, then you're wasting your time going to these institutions, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's any kind of religious organization, or whether it's a genre. If the music you're listening to, the movies that you're watching, the Avenger movies or all these things like comic, they're not doing anything for us. It's entertainment. And I'm saying, if you're not doing anything to supplement that time that you're wasting for entertainment, and there's nothing pushing you or inspiring you to make a change, to be historic, then you're wasting your time, and you're being comfortable, and you're being content with our situation.
Yeah, and figuratively, we used to see that as a stench, as filth, as squalor. We used to see those types of activities that didn't gain any control as a people, but now we have locked arms with them, you see. And now some of us, we have mistaken the good for the bad. See, we don't know whether we're going up or down because our minds have been so infiltrated. And so this is why doing Black history is a plus. We have to do Black history. And as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, it's not, now we know we want to do it in February because of what Carter G. Woodson said and what he did, but we have to do it every day. See, and like some of the people say, well, they gave us February because it's the shortest month. They didn't give us anything. Okay, you chose February because that's the month of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln's birthday. That's what Carter G. Woodson wanted, and that's what they honor. So because we don't even know, we're saying somebody gave us something that they didn't give us, and like the miseducation of the Negro. We got to stop that and start doing our part.
It's repair. We have a lot of repair work to do. It's a task that needs to be tackled. And many of us have to tackle the task. You have to tackle it with your own kids. You need to tackle the system. We have to find ways to change our predicament. Movements are historical. A movement can start with one incident, and can be inspired by one incident. This is what we've seen throughout history with our Black history. So we have to do the things that it takes
to create a movement.
Yeah.
And you could have a movement for this, and I could have a movement. It's nothing wrong. If you look at the strategies of war, they have somebody coming from this way, someone coming from that way. They have archers, they have artillery, they have infantry, they have the Air Force, the Navy, the Marine. They have their attacking, and you can attack from different ways. So
Yeah.
just because the Marines is coming through this way, and the Army is coming this way, and the Air Force we don't have to attack them for doing it something different than us, but we have to. It's a lot for us to do, and it's a lot of things that's needed for us to do. But I'm saying get in the mindset set of being historical.
Yeah. Now, as you all don't know, but I want to say it again. Me and this brother here, Kev, we love Black history. We love our people. We want to see our people win. We want to see our people succeed. We pride in the fact that as a people, we have much to talk about. See, we have so much information to talk about as a people. We have so many lessons to learn. So if all people, we have so much we can talk about to share with one another. We have to be able to eat this Black history. We have to be able to live this Black history. But most importantly, we have to be able to do the Black history, because when we start doing Black history, then and only then will you see the changes that you and I are talking about that needs to take place. But sitting around just talking about names and dates, which are important, but take that to another level. That's what we're saying. Take it to another level.
What other profession or occupation do a person just study and don't become something?
That's a good question.
If I'm studying medicine, I'm studying medicine to become a doctor or something, a nurse or whatever, somebody in the medical field. If I'm studying how to play an instrument, I want to be a musician. Whatever it is, but we study Black history, and many of us just study Black history. Some of us don't, but some of us do. And then it's what's at the end of that studying, and this is something that we should all study Black history, and you should become something from what you have studied. You're doing a lot. We do a lot of studying, and then you gotta have something that you're reaping from it. The fruit of your labor, and this is what we're talking about. I learned from Black history, and every year we doing all this Black history stuff, and then you start doing it more than that, and then so what is it? So to do what? What's the purpose?
Exactly. I've learned that studying Black history with a lot of the greats that's come before us, and this is not a one bullet kills all. It's just that one of the most important lessons that I've learned was that the struggle is continuing. And it's a hard struggle, but it's worth the while, because you're liberating people when you do things. This broadcast have been very, very instrumental in some people's lives, and we're appreciative that you tune in every week and watch us when we come on. But we want to push that to another level, to where you're going to do something that's positive, that's going to help your community, that's going to help your family, that's going to help you. And so therefore, again, we want you to know that we appreciate everybody that tuned in. You could have been doing something else, but we're so grateful that you took time to spend with us, to listen to us talk about making Black history, because making Black history is what it's all about. That's what it's going to boil down to. That's what it has to be, Kev. If not, we die. We die.
Appreciate everyone that showed up. Jah and Kev. Hopefully we'll have a better show next time. Peace.